I want to tell you about a kid named Marcus. Marcus was 8 years old when he first stepped onto a wrestling mat. Small for his age, quiet, the kind of kid who watches everything before he tries anything, takes it all in, stores it, and then moves when he's ready. His mom signed him up because she thought it would give him confidence. She had no idea how right she was going to be. And she had no idea how wrong things were going to go first. My name is Leo. I'm Coach Nic. And this is Ready, Wrestle, Rise. Today, I'm not here to talk to athletes. I'm here to talk to coaches, to parents who are coaching, to older athletes who are stepping into leadership roles. Because the story of Marcus is a story I've seen play out hundreds of times in gyms all over this country. And it doesn't always end the way it ended for him. The research backs up what I've seen with my own eyes. According to the Positive Coaching Alliance, which has been studying youth sports development for over 25 years, when coaches focus on building life skills alongside athletic skills, kids show measurably higher resilience, confidence, empathy, and the ability to bounce back from mistakes. But the inverse is also true. Coaches who don't understand the weight they carry, coaches who coach for themselves instead of for the child in front of them, leave marks that last well beyond the final whistle. We're talking about confidence deficits, anxiety, kids who quit sports they love, and in serious cases, long-term mental health consequences that follow young people into adulthood. That is not small. That is everything. So let's talk about Marcus. And let's talk about what the coaches in his life did, the ones who hurt him, and the one who helped him find his way back. Marcus's first coach, I'll call him Coach Ray, was not a bad person. He was a guy who loved the sport. He had competed, he knew the moves, and he cared about winning in the way a lot of coaches do. Not out of cruelty, out of misplaced priority. When Marcus won, Coach Ray would light up. He'd put a hand on Marcus's shoulder, tell the parents how great the kid was doing, take some credit for the development. When Marcus lost, a different energy filled the room. Coach Ray wouldn't yell. He was more subtle than that. A long silence, a disappointed exhale, we'll talk about what you did wrong on Monday. A look that Marcus, at 8 years old, learned to dread. And Marcus, the way kids do, started to read it. Started to understand that his value in that room was conditional. That the warmth and the belonging he felt, the thing that made wrestling feel good, came with strings attached. Win, and you belong. Lose, and something shifts. Something goes cold. A study published in Frontiers in Psychology found that the coach's ability to regulate their own emotions is one of the strongest predictors of athlete outcomes. When coaches process their frustration through their athletes, even subtly, even without shouting, it activates the athlete's threat response. Their brain shifts out of learning mode and into survival mode. They stop playing to win and start playing not to lose. That shift, in a developing child, rewires how they relate to effort, failure, and their own worth. Marcus stopped raising his hand to try new things. He got cautious. He got small. At 8 years old, he was already learning that failure was something to be ashamed of.
By the time Marcus was 10, he had quit wrestling once, been convinced to come back, and was hanging on by a thread. His mom told me later that he would fake stomachaches on practice mornings, that he'd cry in the car sometimes on the way to tournaments, not excitement nerves, but dread, that he'd stop talking about wrestling at home the way he used to, the way kids talk about things they love. That is what the wrong coaching environment does to a child who is still figuring out who they are. Now, I want to be careful here, because what I'm about to say matters. This is not about villainizing Coach Ray. Most coaches who cause this kind of damage are not doing it on purpose. They're doing it because nobody ever taught them the difference between coaching an athlete and coaching a child. Nobody ever sat them down and said, your emotional reactions in that gym are not private. Your athletes are reading you constantly, and what they read is what they believe about themselves. The Junior Volleyball Association describes it as the coaching ego cycle. Coaches who operate from a place where their athletes' results are tied to their own sense of worth. When the athlete succeeds, the coach feels validated. When the athlete fails, the coach feels like they failed. And without the self-awareness to separate those two things, everything the coach communicates comes filtered through that attachment. Kids feel it. Kids always feel it. When Marcus was 11, his mom found a different program, different coach. I'll call her Coach Dana. The first thing Coach Dana did at the first practice was pull Marcus aside, not to talk about his technique, not to review what he'd done wrong in his last tournament. She asked him one question. She said, "What do you love about wrestling?" Marcus didn't have an answer right away. He'd been in an environment for 3 years where wrestling was something that happened to him, where he performed and was evaluated. Nobody had ever asked him what he loved about it. He had to think about it. He came back to the mat that day with something different in his eyes. Not confidence yet, but a flicker of something. Curiosity, maybe. The memory of why he'd started. Research published in Nature in 2025 found that when coaches demonstrate caring behaviors, specifically what researchers define as dedication, inclusiveness, and supportiveness, athletes show enhanced motivation, better cognitive performance under pressure, and stronger perceptual abilities. In plain language, when a kid feels genuinely cared for, their brain works better, they learn faster, they perform better, and they stay. Coach Dana understood something that takes a lot of coaches years to figure out if they ever do. She understood that her wins and her losses were not the same as Marcus's wins and losses. Her job was not to be the reason he succeeded. Her job was to build the conditions for him to discover what he was capable of, and then get out of the way.
When Marcus lost a match, and he lost a lot that first year because he had gaps from the time he'd spent playing scared, Coach Dana didn't analyze it at the mat. She let him feel it, sat near him, let the silence be what it needed to be. And then later, when he was ready, she'd ask, "What did you notice? What did your body tell you?" Not, "Here's what you did wrong." Not, "We've been working on this, why didn't you use it?" Questions that put him back in the driver's seat of his own experience. And when he won, when he got a takedown he'd been drilling for weeks, when he executed something clean and his face opened up, she didn't make it about her. She pointed right back at him. That was yours. You built that. Nobody handed that to you. 4 words that every coach needs to understand. Let their wins land. Not in you, not in the validation you feel when your athlete does well. In them. The win needs to live in the athlete. That is where confidence actually gets built. Confidence is not something a coach gives a child. It is something a child discovers when the conditions are right. Your job as a coach is to create the conditions. Then step back. By the time Marcus was 13, something had changed that his mom could barely put into words when she tried to describe it to me. He walked differently, stood differently. He started raising his hand again, trying new things, making mistakes out loud without crumbling, laughing at himself when he got caught in something, asking questions. He was still losing matches sometimes. He wasn't undefeated. That was never the point. But he was growing. And more than that, he was okay. He was a kid who could lose something hard, feel the sting of it honestly, sit in it for a minute, and then come back. That's not a wrestling skill. That is a life skill. That is a skill that will carry him through the first time a job falls through a relationship that doesn't work out, through every moment where the world doesn't go the way he planned. The Positive Coaching Alliance calls it the double goal coach. A coach who competes to win and intentionally uses sport to teach life skills. Their 25 years of data shows that athletes who play for double goal coaches don't just perform better in sport. They achieve higher academic results. They develop stronger interpersonal skills. They lead healthier lives. That is the legacy of good coaching. Not a win record, a human being. Now I want to talk directly to the coaches watching this because there's something I need to say clearly. If you were coaching because you love the sport, wonderful. That love is real, and it matters. If you are coaching because you want to win, I understand it. Competition is in the DNA of sport. It's okay to want to win. But if your athletes can feel that their losses change how you feel about them, if there's a different energy in the room after a loss, if your feedback comes loaded with your own frustration, if the only time practice feels light is when things are going well, then you are in the coaching ego trap, and the children in your care are paying for it.
Here is what checking your ego at the door actually looks like in practice. It looks like pausing before you react, not suppressing your feelings, processing them before they land on a 10-year-old. Your frustration is valid. Aim it at your steering wheel on the drive home, not at the kid who just did their best and came up short. It looks like separating technique from worth. Your elbow is too high. Here's why that got you caught. Is coaching. I can't believe you did that again after everything we've worked on. Is your ego wearing a coaching uniform? One of those things helps a child. The other one teaches them that mistakes make them less. It looks like letting the hard moments be hard. When a kid loses something they cared about, they don't need you to immediately fix it or analyze it. They need you to be present, to sit near them, to not make it worse. The analysis can come later. The presence needs to come now. It looks like building habits from day one. The mental habits we build in young athletes, how they talk to themselves after a mistake, whether they believe that effort leads to growth, how they handle someone else winning. Those habits form early and they last. You are wiring patterns into developing brains. Wire the right ones. We work hard and we recover well. We win with class. We lose with grace. Our worth doesn't live on the scoreboard. And it looks like coaching without needing anything back. This is the hardest one. The greatest coaches I've ever observed give everything. Time, instruction, belief, patience. And they genuinely do not need their athletes to succeed in order to feel okay about themselves. They have done the internal work to separate their identity from their athletes' results. Their coaching doesn't come with a hidden invoice. That freedom, coaching without needing anything back, is something kids can feel. It creates safety. And safety is where growth lives. Marcus is 15 now. He still competes. He still loses sometimes, and he still wins sometimes. Last season, he had a rough stretch. 3 tough losses in a row. Matches where he'd worked hard, and it just hadn't gone his way. He came to practice the Monday after the 3rd one, and Coach Dana asked him how he was doing. He said, "I'm okay. I was frustrated, but I know what I need to work on." That sentence. 8 years old, that sentence would have been impossible for him. It would have been shame or silence or a stomachache before practice. At 15, it was, "I'm okay. I was frustrated. I know what I need to work on." That is a whole, healthy human being who knows how to lose, who has been given permission to feel the hard stuff without being destroyed by it, who knows that a loss doesn't define him because for the last 4 years, the coach on his side of the mat has never behaved like it did. That is the impact of coaching done right. And that is the legacy worth building. If you are a coach watching this, I want you to ask yourself one honest question tonight. When your athlete loses, is your first instinct about them or about you? You don't have to answer out loud. Just sit with it. Because the answer is the beginning of everything.
The mat comes and goes. The habits of mind we give these kids, the belief that they are worthy regardless of the scoreboard, the ability to feel hard emotions without being swallowed by them, the knowledge that the person in their corner is there unconditionally, those stay forever. That's what we're building. That's the standard. Share this video with every coach you know, with every parent running a youth team. Drop in the comments, have you had a Coach Ray in your life or a Coach Dana? What was the difference? Those stories matter. They change how we do this.
Subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell, like the video if this hit home. I'm Leo, I'm Coach Nic, this is Ready, Wrestle, Rise, and the Mat Girls. Coach without needing anything back. Let their wins be theirs. Stay in their corner through every loss. That's the legacy. Let's go.